Intergalactic The Heretic Prophet debuted during the Game Awards. It is a newly announced game from Naughty Dog, and the reaction has been sort of sadly predictable. And I've thought about this a lot, and I've really tried to come up with a way of talking about games and talking about the latest announcements of games or why they fail and not get pulled down into what I feel is a very unhelpful discussion. And I think the best way to do that is just to sort of just give analysis of a game, give my own thoughts, whether it be subjective or objective analysis, because I do actually think there were a lot of elements in this trailer that stood out, and a lot of it's just getting completely ignored, which is unfortunate. First, I think the pacing is worthy of discussion, as well as the overall vibe. There's also a lot of subtle hints and clues in the trailer, the graphical fidelity, facial expressions, all of that. There's even a small glimpse of gameplay, as well as just the name of the game, I think is really interesting. I think it's worth discussing and analyzing. So I'm just going to go through this upload and give my thoughts on those various things, and I usually follow these with a live show, so be sure to check out my live channel discussions. We talk through gaming news as well, as do uploads like this, so don't forget to hit like and subscribe as well. So when it comes to the pacing of this, I saw some reactions where people were expressing that they were sort of bored because the trailer does move pretty slow. And I actually think that's something that I want to see from a game if there's going to be heavy narrative focus. And the pacing of this trailer is admittedly very slow. It takes an entire minute before we even see the main character. Roughly 60 seconds is spent with sort of this opening quote, and then they slowly move through space. And I am a huge Twilight Zone and Alfred Hitchcock fan, and something about older TV shows has really shown me that good storytelling is often coupled with just letting a scene or something sit. You know, just allow some time to pass, using silence for good stretches of time. In our media-addled age, slowing the pace of a story or a trailer is just not very typical. There's another 30 seconds after that where we don't even hear any dialogue, almost a full minute and a half before they even do that. And then, keeping with the theme of silence and moments where they just sort of let a scene sit, at the 3-minute mark, the discussion between the two characters is over, and the main character just takes a moment before deciding to leave. This is combined with using sort of the vastness of space to both ominously as well as sort of invitingly sit before the viewer. Now, all of this is also undergirded by a lot of things that I think create a very memorable vibe. The atmosphere of this trailer has a very Stanley Kubrick feel to it. Long, drawn-out zooms, very symmetrical framing. There's this sort of eerie, almost haunting undercurrent of music, and then the use of color and product placement. It's actually all part of the storytelling. The devs have said that this has been inspired by Akira and Cowboy Bebop, and according to interviews, Intergalactic takes place in an alternate universe where space travel was significantly advanced by 1986. So all of that product placement and the music is an expression of that. And then there's these nice little touches. At the very end, her sword, it sort of turns on and it looks like a Soundwave 80s equalizer. Then there's the CD jukebox, all the old digital screens and lights, the tactile feel of all the buttons and switches as she's interacting with them. It just oozes with the 80s. It simultaneously makes me think of Knight Rider, Akira, and a Stanley Kubrick film. And that's not really even getting into all of the clues and the hints in the scenery itself. There's been extensive breakdowns on everything on the wall when the main character is sort of looking for her remote, and she's apparently a part of a group called the Five Aces. They've all gone into hiding, or maybe some of them are just missing. Now, I'm not really interested in trying to piece all those clues together, but I just want to observe that when a game dev does this, it's a sign of care and a sign of passion. After playing both of the Last of Us games, I expect a lot of attention to detail for the characters as well as their stories and their backstories. I will say, though, that the picture on the wall does show that the main character has not always had a shaved head. That's likely a significant part of the story since it's the first thing we sort of see her doing. Everybody's jumping to assumptions about her appearance. They're not really seeing that this is likely a significant element of the story. Like when all of a sudden we saw Natalie Portman sporting a shaved head for her role in V for Vendetta. Well, that's a significant moment in the movie. So given that great care is taken in the trailer to establish all sorts of very minor details as well as backstory, just that quick scan of the wall shows us that there is a lot here. I really trust that there is more to her tough exterior than just some shallow cliche or some message or an agenda. It doesn't seem like something they've done in an insincere or just typical lame way. It seems like a genuine part of what has happened. There was this group, they're now broken up, she looks different, and that's going to be, I think, one of the central parts of the game's story. I also do want to talk a little bit about the graphical fidelity as well as that small snippet of gameplay. Naughty Dog games are usually very character focused, and while a good portion of the discussion of this game is about the appearance of the main character, I would rather look at just how far character design and facial animations have come. If you watch this trailer and you pay close attention to things like her blinking, her eye movement, little smirks, her posture, even her body language as she's sort of putting on the jacket, you can sense that they put a lot of time into this. And then when she's talking and she's like moving her fast food cup around, it all just feels very natural. A lot of times in these scenes, the characters can look a little stiff, maybe a little uncanny valley. It also looks very in-engine, which, if true, I think is very impressive. But according to the New York Times interview, that small snippet of gameplay at the end is actual gameplay. And if that's the case, then I am very excited. There is so much to notice in just the 11 seconds of gameplay, and my editor's going to hate me for this, but I want to analyze it just a little bit. The way the foliage reacts to her sword as it sort of lights up and turns on, the actual foliage moves back, and it also lights up. I think that's very impressive. It looks very cool. Then there's reflections in the water, and then the water actually reacts to the enemy's movement and the enemy's swings. And then there is the movement of the characters themselves. It looks very fluid. It looks seamless. If this is just a glimpse into what the gameplay will be like, then it should be very good. A former Rockstar Games animation developer reacted to the trailer and was blown away. He said that her jumping off of that rock as sort of a mechanic in the gameplay, he said, oh, they're just showing off here. And I do want to make a quick observation about the name of the game. Intergalactic The Heretic Prophet could mean other games will come with different subtitles. Intergalactic The Apostate Priest, or something like that. And apparently the name is also a clue about the story as well. Interviews are showing that faith will be a central element to the plot, where if you put your faith in different institutions, what happens when you do that? So where do I ultimately land on this game? Naughty Dog has certainly earned my trust at this point. I went into The Last of Us Part 2 very skeptical given everything that I had heard. I always thought that Ghost of Tsushima deserved Game of the Year. I said, listen, sequels have to do a significant more amount of work if they're going to win Game of the Year. And when I played The Last of Us Part 2, the combat alone blew me away. We can debate up one side and down the other about decisions with story and what they should or shouldn't have done. From a gameplay perspective, the way they have designed the combat in The Last of Us Part 2 is incredible. It's dynamic, it's emergent, it's honestly unmatched. I don't think it gets talked about enough. And they did an interview where they said that this will be their deepest gameplay in Naughty Dog's history. And they want to take everything they've learned from previous franchises and push beyond anything they've done before. Now, I'm a fan of melee-based third-person games, so I couldn't be more excited that that's the direction they're taking. And yes, I know we've only seen 10 seconds of gameplay, but as I said, they've earned my trust. If I only saw 10 seconds of gameplay from Ghosts of Yotei, I would say the same thing. That's a game in a studio that has earned my trust. I know they're going to make a good product. I went from being a skeptic about The Last of Us Part 2 to being a huge fan of the game, which is why I would really urge folks to just not jump to conclusions based on literally nothing. This emphasis on analyzing what every character looks like in games is going beyond objective analysis and criticism. I just don't find it to be very compelling. Most of the time it's rooted in dishonesty. So many videos and thumbnails have Photoshop versions of pictures of people every time they're making these arguments. A lot of the argumentation is just bad faith, and it seems to be more driven by just hey, I know negativity gets you the clicks, but it doesn't seem to be rooted in honest analysis. For now, I will say I am excited for Intergalactic. Even if it's 1 or 2 years away, I still think this is a game worth paying attention to, and it's likely going to be a very good game given the track record of the studio. But those are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can leave a comment below. You may get featured in the live stream that follows this video. It'll hit a card here. It will also be linked below in the pinned comment. And as always, if you like this video, please remember to hit like, share, and subscribe.